Now, from Wish TV, your local news source, this is All Indiana Politics.
Good Sunday morning. Welcome to another edition of All Indiana Politics. I'm Phil Sanchez. Israel's strike on Iran could derail negotiations, but likely were needed. That's the word from Indiana Congressman Marlin Stutzman. He talked to our government reporter, Garrett Berquist. Stutzman also covered the ongoing protest against immigration enforcement actions and some Republican opposition to the budget plan the House has approved.
And let's bring in Congressman Marlin Stutzman. Congressman, welcome back to the program.
Good morning. Great to be with you.
I want to begin with Israel's strikes on Iran. Do you believe this will help or hurt President Trump's efforts to bring Iran to the negotiating table over its nuclear program?
Well, it probably hurts the ability to negotiate with Iran, but I tell you, I think that Israel's doing the right thing by going after the nuclear program. One thing that we know with Iran, they can't be trusted with nuclear capability. You know, they try to say that it's for utility purposes, but we know that they're sponsoring terrorism around the world, and especially in the Middle East. And you know, not only should it concern Israel, obviously that's what they would want to use it for, but it would also, you know, be used against Saudi Arabia, UAE, Turkey, other countries in the Middle East that don't get in line with the Iranian effort of, you know, creating havoc in the Middle East. So I think the fact that Israel went in and took out the program, or parts of the program, and we'll find out exactly what they all took out, is really important. Austria just reported that they had good intelligence of a nuclear program. So I think the fact that Israel went ahead and made this move is good, because they must have been getting further and further along.
How concerned should Americans in the Middle East be, and particularly Americans who might have loved ones who are currently deployed in that area?
For those who are in the Middle East, it's obviously concerning. You know, while we were there 2 weeks ago, we had to, you know, hit a bomb shelter a couple of times because of the Houthis shooting in missiles. Of course, you have the Houthis shooting at Israel. Hamas attacked Israel back in October of 2023, and that war is hopefully coming down to an end. So you just know that Iran is going to continue to attack from every angle they can. They're obviously very active in Iraq at this point, and so there's going to try to be some sort of retaliation effort, but Israel seems to be having a good handle on this initial attack. It just shows that the Iranians don't have much of anything other than trying to get a nuclear bomb, which they know that's the one that we would all fear the most.
Let's turn to the immigration protests here at home. Started in Los Angeles. They're spreading across the country. In fact, there are some now happening here in Indianapolis. Was it right for the president to call out active duty Marines? Couldn't he have accomplished all this through the National Guard, which is usually the first units you turn to in a situation like that?
Yeah, you know, I think that, you know, President Trump is doing the right thing by putting an end to these riots. We saw these happen in the previous Trump administration. We saw this in Minneapolis and in other parts of the country, Oregon, Seattle, of course, in Washington, the state of Washington. They've had these riots over the past several years, and we see the destruction and damage. We saw what happened in Indianapolis. You know, the downtown was just decimated, and you know, businesses left, destruction occurred, and I think that the right thing to do is put an end to this as quickly as possible. And if it takes the National Guard, if it takes the Marines, you know, President Trump is going to do the right thing by stopping this sooner rather than later, because you know, people's lives are lost. I mean, they lose not only life, but also we lose, you know, small businesses and people's livelihoods.
The Wall Street Journal reports that ICE is now targeting people who are in the country unlawfully, but who have not committed any other crimes, any felonies or even misdemeanors. And there are several reports of lawful immigrants being swept up in this as well. Why not give those immigrants other options if they haven't committed any crimes?
Well, I think eventually there will be that scenario. There's been some talk about that here in Congress, about those who are here undocumented, not citizenship. I don't think that's the right path at all. But you know, there may be a conversation about that soon. But President Trump and Tom Homan are going after the criminals. Now, if that leads to those who are here undocumented and don't have any sort of criminal background, they may get swept up in that. And I think that's why, you know, it's important for us to go after the criminals first, and then we can have that discussion about those who are here undocumented.
Did federal agents overreact when they removed Senator Alex Padilla from that news conference with Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem? I should point out the senator was at a news conference. He confronted her and was then pushed to the ground and handcuffed.
Well, no, I don't think that they overreacted. Senator Padilla approached the podium where Kristi Noem was speaking at a press conference. He didn't have his congressional pin on. He didn't have a suit and tie on. You don't know who he is in those circumstances. And so security and those who were there to make sure that every reporter was safe, every official was safe, any civilian that was there was safe. And the fact that Padilla pushed back and fought back, if you watch the entire video, he resisted the entire time. If he would have identified himself, and he could have probably had a private audience with Secretary Noem instead of approaching her at a press conference without proper identification.
Let's turn to the budget negotiations. At least 3 Republican senators have said that they will not vote for the budget bill as it currently stands because they believe it does not do enough to address the national debt. How do you respond to that criticism?
Well, you know, I'm glad that the senators are holding their ground. And, you know, we all realize that the $36 trillion of debt is the greatest threat to the United States right now because Washington and Congress hasn't been responsible with taxpayer dollars over the past several decades. And so the senators know that this is a time, and I believe that the Republicans, including President Trump, know that we have got to grow this economy. We have got to get the foot of the federal government off the back of the American people and the American economy so it can grow. But also there is spending reductions that could take place, that need to take place. We just voted on the rescissions package yesterday that cut almost $10 billion. That's a good start, but there's plenty more that can be done. And I think that senators like Senator Paul and Senator Johnson, Senator Lee are doing the right thing by pushing this even further. And I believe that we'll get it done. Republicans are united in knowing that we've got to trim the spending that Washington has been doing over the past several years, especially back down to a size that's responsible.
All right, coming up, the mayor of Indianapolis defends late-night texts to a female staffer who accuses his top aide of sexual misconduct. Welcome back. Indianapolis Mayor Joe Hogsett says he won't resign amid the growing sexual misconduct scandal surrounding his top staff. One of the accusers was escorted out of the city-county council meeting for questioning a report on misconduct, and our cameras caught another accuser going to confront the mayor in person. Our Kyla Russell has been following this story since the beginning.
I know Maggie was in there. Tell me a little bit about that conversation with her.
Yeah, I was having lunch, and so she came up and we did have a conversation. It's unfortunate that she's left the office because I thought she was a wonderful employee, but she's moved on to different things, and I just simply wished her the best.
This is Maggie Adams McBride walking into a downtown restaurant. Hogsett is inside after deciding not to attend a press conference on an unrelated matter. And when he left the restaurant, I tried to ask him questions. Sir, why'd you cancel your press conference? It comes after an explosive city-county council meeting.
Do not put your hands on me.
Oh, don't even do that.
That Adams McBride spoke at, calling for the mayor's resignation.
Has not been held accountable for internal harm experienced by its workers. We have heard from survivors who have experienced retaliation, harassment, and systemic neglect, and these patterns don't just exist in isolation.
The mayor's former deputy campaign manager, Lauren Roberts, tells me the mayor's top aide, Thomas Cook, groomed her for years. She was thrown out of last night's meeting. Hogsett told me he was watching. And what did you think of the moment that Lauren Roberts was thrown out?
I thought it was incredibly regrettable. Well, I think it's important that we continue to evolve the process for protection for all employees, and that includes confidentiality and anonymity if they do have concerns.
Do you have any plans to resign?
No, I don't have any plans to resign. We've got 2.5 years left in this term, and we have a lot to accomplish.
Maggie Adams McBride brings the total amount of accusers of harassment within the Hogsett administration to 5. Reporting here at the City County building, I'm Kyla Russell for Wish TV and WishTV.com.
And Hogsett now admits to sending after-hours text messages to some of the women who accuse his top aide of sexual harassment and assault. Danielle Zukoski has the mayor's explanation and reaction from both sides.
The mayor spoke at length about these texts. He not only confirmed he sent messages to a young female staffer well into the night, but was texting her about poetry in addition to work.
Lauren Roberts and Caroline Ellert both say they received late-night texts from Mayor Joe Hogsett. He admits to sending those to just Ellert.
It's not, I suppose, unusual to become more familiar in your conversations with people. And as long as there was, in my estimation, no intent to make anybody feel uncomfortable, in retrospect, though, I can understand how some of those comments may have been taken out of context.
Reactions from both sides of the aisle were mixed.
As someone who, serves part-time, runs campaigns, evening text messages with staff are things that unfortunately have to happen, and we pull late nights, but the content of those, particularly around the poetry, especially for a married man, gives me great pause.
So I'm not going to judge on that. I don't know all the other circumstances around it. I will give you that it was different.
When asked about the messages, two Republican councilors say this is a sign to continue with the investigation to get additional answers.
They need to at least answer why these were omitted and not put into the report into the beginning.
What we need to control is to continue that investigation. Right? We as councilors have that in our ability to make sure that we subpoena that. We could subpoena actually if we want to, but bring that information in. And so that's where we've got to get to and get to that point and start doing our own review.
Hogsett's own party stopped short of calling for him to resign, instead sharing a statement with reforms the Democrats aim to make. Danielle Zukoski, IT-Mate for Wish TV and WishTV.com.
Coming up, Indiana's best political team tackles the Hogsett administration scandal and the immigration protests across the country. Welcome back to All Indiana Politics. With us now, two members of Indiana's best political team, Democrat Dana Black and Republican Tom John. Good to see you both. Let's start with the latest on the sexual misconduct surrounding Mayor Joe Hogsett's administration. Dana, I'll start with you. Three members of the City County Council, including two Democrats, are now calling on Hogsett to resign. Two questions for you. Should he resign, and does he risk losing the support of the council?
I don't think he has to resign. Does he need to resign? I think that's an internal thing. But we are living in a society where the President of the United States just got another ruling for his harassment in his E. Jean Carroll case. Right. We have men up and down the elected official status in both parties of every demographic that do not know how to behave themselves, apparently, when women are in the room. Did Hogsett handle this situation correctly? Absolutely not. But honestly, when are we going to see men rise to the occasion when women are explaining over and over that they are being harassed when they are literally just trying to earn a paycheck? Yeah. And until men decide, and we've had this discussion before, when men decide that they are no longer going to sit around and let someone else's sister, someone else's daughter, someone else's wife be harassed by their coworkers, that is the only way we are going to change this situation. This is not a Republican problem. It's not a Democratic problem. This is a man problem. And y'all have got to fix this with your brothers.
Well said. Tom, I'll get your thoughts on that as well, but also those images of Lauren Roberts being forcibly removed from the council. Could that have been handled differently?
Yeah, I want to mention and I feel for Dana. She's in a rough spot here. The fact is the titular head of the Indiana Democrat Party is a mess. And the fact is the Marion County Democrat Party, which is the lead of the Indiana Democrat Party, is a mess. And the fact is, yes, Joe Hogsett should resign, period, full stop. Now let's talk about the council. The fact is they are not stepping up. There are a couple of councilors that have said things. Of course, the Republicans are going to say things. But when you look at this, going to Donald Trump or going to other things, that's not the point. The point is we have a man here in charge of the city that he and his closest consigliere were predatory on women and now have not been called to account. This is a lack of leadership by the council. The other night when Lauren Roberts was taken out is a lack of judgment and a lack of political acumen. when people want to petition their bodies and ask to be heard, particularly about something this important, how do you shove them out with police officers? You should give them their time. That was not done. That's an indication of how poor.
She was given extra time, actually.
And most of the time was taken up by
I don't agree with what happened on Monday night.
Most of the time was taken up by Vop Osley
and
rather
that's what she was
her.
saying yesterday, or earlier in the week. She did say that a lot of the time was taken up by Osley. I'll let you respond though.
Well, because here's the thing: you can't say that one male who is in one party should be held to account, and another male who's in the opposite party should not be account. They are both in executive branches. One is just in the federal government.
We're in Indianapolis.
I get that, but my point to you is this: Thomas Cooks is not the first, and unfortunately, he won't be the last. And until we address the real issue, this is not a political issue. This is social training, your home training. How are you taught to treat women? And it will continue to. We can make this a right and left issue if you would like, but it is not that. We have women all over America who continue to come forward that they are showing up to work and are being harassed by multiple men on multiple occasions. And when they bring those reports forward, people are not taking them seriously. They're brushing them aside. Now, I will say that the council did approve a $450,000 investigation, and at least they are attempting to try to come to grips with what's going on. Whether Monday night was regrettable, I agree with that. I wish he had handled it differently. However, this is not a political issue, and until we start realizing that men need to behave better when women are in the room, what else are we talking about?
The fact is, I agree with everything you say about men should behave better, Dana, but it's still a political issue.
So if you're not going to get rid of the president, then why should you get rid of the mayor?
The leader of our city.
The leader of our country.
We're talking about Indianapolis, the leader of our city.
I'm talking about leaders at every level who are men who behave poorly. I am not going to distinguish.
It's a great way to divert, but it doesn't deal with the question.
It's not diversion. He got convicted of rape, and you guys voted him back in. So how can I trust you to say who should be resigning when you voted for a guy who was convicted of rape?
Could Hogsett be impeached, Tom?
Well, he could be. The Indiana General Assembly could come, and so if the General Assembly came together with Governor Braun and said, this is our capital city. This is the economic driver of our state, and somebody who has done the things that he has been accused of doing and maintained the people, keeping Thomas Cook around for 68 days after it was clear what he had been doing, after 3 years later, after the mayor had been told face-to-face by one of the victims. The legislature might take this into account and say, we have hundreds of millions or billions in debt. They're related to the city of Indianapolis. We have assets, including state assets, including Lucas Oil, including the Pacers, the Colts. We need leadership in this city, and this is a clear indicator that we need a change.
I would caution the legislature for doing anything, because those skeletons will come out.
Yeah.
I am more than certain that if that legislature begins the process of impeaching the mayor of the capital city, the revenue-generating county of our entire state, trust me, when the lights come on, the roaches will scurry, and y'all start seeing a whole bunch of stuff coming out of that state house.
We will be all over that, of course. I want to turn the conversation, and quickly, please, I have a minute left, to the riots that are going on, or the protests, rather, out west and other cities across the country. Your thoughts on that, Dana, 30 seconds?
It's unfortunate that ICE is taking people who have been in the country for 10 years, who have been contributing to our communities. People have known that they were undocumented. They've even shown up to their hearings, and they're being snatched up. We have leadership in the federal government that is a chaos creator. He is trying to deflect from a whole bunch of other stuff, and he sends the National Guard into California when the governor and the mayor said, please don't. He is a chaos creator. He is generating all this animus and angst by rounding people up that he doesn't have to.
Seconds, quickly.
The fact is, it's legally authorized for ICE to be doing this. A lot of this is a result of the Biden policies, and now we're left where we are, once again in conflict, because people won't pay attention to the fact elections have consequences.
Well, there you go. Dana, by the way, just quickly, happy birthday weekend.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Good to see you both.
We had to bring balance to the universe.
Good to see you both. Thank you so much for being here. We'll be right back. Well, thank you for joining us for All Indiana Politics this week. We'll be back here next Sunday morning at 9:30. And be sure to check out the All Indiana Politics podcast online at wishtv.com. Have a great rest of your weekend.